Okay, so here we are to HTML part 3, which would also be the second class where we covered HTML. So the first class, those first two parts of the video, we were dealing with all the stuff that would be in your template. So all the stuff that would be the same on every page, the menu buttons, the footer down here, your copyright, your banner. And if we look to test this, we can see it's all working out the way we want it to. And you really want to make sure as much as possible this stuff is the way you want it. There are some things that you would be able to change outside of that. Basically anything that's in the CSS, because it's the same CSS, it's the same CSS sheet. These things are actually universal. So if I decide there are changes I want to make after the fact, I can, if they deal with the CSS, I can make those changes. Oh, I'll definitely want to fix that. But there are some changes that we can make afterwards. So, but what we can't do, there we go, is edit, redo. There we go. What we can't do is change anything in the source code after the fact. So if you need to change any of these words from gallery to video, if you want to change what any of the links are in here, what the image is, those are all things that, even though they're universal between all the pages, this source code, this HTML file, is going to be different for every single page. So what you don't want to do is leave some of these things for later. This section right here, that you can leave for later because that's going to be different on every page. But anything that's universal, names of these buttons, your copyright, things like that, you want to make sure you're figuring them out now. All right, so let's assume everything's perfect in terms of what's universal, and we're going to move on to something else. I'm just going to test the page one last time because I want to make sure, yep, it all works before I move on to the next thing. So, all right. The way this works, if I bring up this here, and if I bring up a magnifying glass, because this is definitely, there we go, gonna be tricky. So we have an HTML file that we've called template, and we have the CSS file. Now the CSS file is universal, this is not. And if we look at these links here, they're linking to something called index.html, about.html, gallery, etc. So what we actually need to do is make copies of the pages that look like this. So we're going to go to File, Save As, and it asks me, I'm going to save it in the exact same place in this folder, and we're going to leave it as an HTML file, but we're going to call it index, right? One word, no spaces, no funny business. It has to match what these links are. Both buttons that have a link back to the main page need to have the exact same link, and they have to have the exact same file name as what you're naming this file, because this link is technically to a page, it's to a file. I'm going to have a file that says about.html, and it's going to link to that file. You could call them all Rumpelstiltskin, as long as it's spelled exactly the same here and here, the link will work. So, but because Rumpelstiltskin is very hard to spell and index is very easy to spell, we stick with very simple words, only a few letters, all lowercase, no special characters, no numbers if we can help it. That's what we need to do. And so I say save, and you'll see what it actually does is it opens this up in a new tab. Now I'm going to close the template page because that's going to get confusing, but the others I can leave open. And we just go through them. We say File, and the next one is called About. Now, the link says About. I know it says Bio in here, but it's called the About page and all the links, and I didn't change that. So I have to make the file name say About. And I go on through, and let's see, gallery. A lot of you would have a different maybe name for the word gallery, or for the gallery page. You might have a different page. And contact. Make sure you're leaving the dot in there between the name and the HTML tag. All right. So now we have 4 different pages open, and what that means is I have to pay attention to which tab I'm on because the source code is different. The CSS is all the same. If I make a change to this right here, and I say it's going to be 146 wide, it's going to do that for all of them. See that? Same CSS for all 4. So you have to be aware of that. All right, this is a universal part. There is a way to work around that in case you want something to be different in one place. I'll show you that in a minute. But what we need to do now is we need to worry about what's going on in the middle here, because we haven't been paying any attention to that at all. So I can change any of this text that I want. I can say, welcome to my page. It's usually the hardest part, is coming up with what to say on the opening page. All right, and then something art stuff, right? I can write whatever I want in here. I'm gonna leave this one paragraph longer for a reason. But what if I want an image? What if I want there to be some kind of image to go here on one side and text to go on the other? So that's the one I'm going to walk you through, and then I have a few others that are templates that you'll see the files and you can pull the HTML from there. But first I'm going to walk you through how to tell two different things to be side by side using some CSS and some HTML here. All right, so step 1 is we need to have an image to put there, because we can't be making stuff up. Oh good, I don't have images, so I'm going to pause this and go find some images. All right, so I went and I found a folder that has these are the thumbnails. Here we go. Some images. There we go. So some cat pictures, because that's all I have. I have to put these in. I'm actually going to put them in here because I know that's where it belongs. I need to put these in the folder first. They can be in a subfolder, they can be in a subfolder, but I really need whatever pictures I'm dealing with to be in this folder first. All right? Because otherwise it'll go looking for them, and we can't have that. So you organize your stuff, you put it in this folder first. All right? And then what I need to do is I need to put something in here that basically says, look at this, like, go find this image. Well, it turns out I already have that in here. So this is going to be step 1 of several bazillion, where we basically pull from stuff we've already done. If you look, it's line 12 on mine. I'm actually going to make a new line so we can see it. Because these center tags, I don't want them. I want this image tag. And you can see it's actually just one tag. Normally there's a sort of front tag and an end tag. Here it's just one tag. Image source equals name of thing. There's a width, there's a height, there's this alt code. We can actually, if I don't want to have to type out all its syntax, I can just copy this line and paste it right here. Now it's going to initially put a random header where you don't want it. That's fine. Because then I can go to where this is, and I can click on here, go to the folder, and I can say, oh, I want my cat picture to be there. Now, it's not updating. It says what size to put it here, but it's not listening, which is fine. And I think it's because, nope. Oh, width is 564 and height is 94. That feels backwards. So, and my little HTML thing is off the side here. So we're going to say 94 and 564, which is also wrong. So if something's misbehaving like this, I can go and I can check it's 562 by 1000. So what I'm going to do, in order to fix this, I'm going to say the width is 562 and the height is 1000. Now I'm going to do that so that it makes this match. All right, that's step 1. That's obviously much too big. So step 2 is I'm going to get rid of the part that says height, because it's going to do it proportionally as long as I have one of these numbers. And then I can go to this number and I can say, well, what if it's 200? See how it shrunk it? The text isn't over to the side yet. That's okay, we're going to fix that. But I kind of got it vaguely to the size that I want. And I'm not going to mess too much more with the size of it until I figure out all this other stuff, because I need to tell this text to go over here. So what's happening is, if we zoom out for a minute, I put an image in here. but it just reads it from top to bottom. So it's image and then there's paragraphs with text in it and they go underneath. And because there's not enough space in this thing we've called section, they're just kind of dropping out the bottom. So I need to tell these things to go side by side. And in order to do that, I have to put them in their own containers. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make containers. One that says open caret index image, open caret or close caret, and then I go to the end of it and I say open caret / index image close caret. And it's, what is this? Go away. Sometimes it auto-completes things in very strange ways. But I'm making a tag. Same as these li tags, the nav tag, header tag, all these things. I just need words, letters in a row that make sense to me. This is the index page, and I am putting an image to the left-hand side. I'm specifying both of these things because I need to go to my CSS to declare what these things are going to do. And that CSS is universal to all your pages, so you can't just call it image here, because if you have an image on your bio page, it's going to do the exact same thing. But then I can call this one index text. That's not how you spell text, and spelling matters here. And then I can go to the end here. Oh, I know what happened. As soon as I put the close tag, it typed the whole thing in for me, and then I retyped it last time. So I now have these two tags, index text and index image, and I can spell these things out in the CSS. So I can go up to my thing here, I can say CSS, and I'm going to go past the section. I like things in order. They don't have to be in order in here, but I need them to be in order for me. And I'm going to say index image, open squiggly. And you can see it closes the squiggly for me. And so I can say things like float left, semicolon. And you can see when I did that, it automatically, look at what it did to my text. It kind of, at least put it alongside of it. Don't worry, we'll fix the rest in a second. This is a step-by-step process where you fix one problem and then fix the next. Index text is the other, text. Text is the other one that we set up. Nope, squiggly bracket. Again, I'm putting spaces in here just for me to see. They're not necessary, but I do like my spaces. And I can tell this one to float to the, nope, to the right. And it put it back down to the bottom. So how do we fix this? Well, I can tell this one to be with 400 pixels. Pox pixels. That helps. You can't see it, but it is off to this side. So maybe I want to make it a little bit bigger. This page is pretty big. There we go. So I'm going to have to zoom out, so you won't be able to see what I'm typing as much, but we kind of want to see what on earth is going on here. So when I had too small of a number in there, you couldn't see it at all, but it was on this page. So now we're cooking with oil. But I don't want this image all the way over here, and I don't want my text going all the way up to the side. So now we have to say things like margin left, colon, 100 pixels, semicolon. And you can see it smashes this over to the side. But it doesn't move this because this has been told to be 800 pixels. So now I got to tell it, well, maybe you should be 600 pixels. Too small. 700. Well, not 6700. We're balancing these kinds of things. I can also say, or, no, margin, let's see, nope, right, 100 pixels. So I can tell the text, there we go. Now 600 will work because, just kidding. Put a slash in there, it ignores the whole thing. There we go. Because I don't want this to be up against the edge. So I gave it this margin on that side to say 100 pixels margin, but it's only 600 pixels wide, right? This is index text. It's this big. But I've also got a 100 pixel margin here, which takes up 100 pixels. And then this image has a 100 pixel margin over here. And if the whole thing's 1,000 pixels, so 100 plus 100 is 200, plus this is 700. yeah, 800, and then plus the size of the image, and this space in between is what's left over. That's basically it. Now there's a few things here. This image, I can say border style solid. Hey, that's something we've seen before. Look at that. Isn't that so nice looking? It's these little things that really make your page look nice. Now, of course, this image is a bit too long. So how do I handle this? Well, I can tell this to be a little bit taller, right? Oh, apparently my image has a bunch of random space at the bottom. That's nice. So what's going on here is that I made this section, this right here, I made it a little bit bigger to fit this image and whatever text I put in. Hopefully that will work for my other pages. If it doesn't, and I will purposely make it not for the gallery, I will show you how to have like two different things here for two different pages. But for right now, I'm assuming that this would be a decent size for all of my pages, but it's not going to auto expand. It's going to be this exact same width, which means you kind of have to make it work for everything. Now I could, one of the other reasons is that it was really close to the bottom here, but there's this padding at the top. So I could say, I could turn down the padding on that section to like 30, but it does shift everything. You see shifted over to the one side. And what I could do instead is say padding top is 30 pixels. And then you can get more specific. Padding right is 100 pixels. 100 pixels. No, 50 pixels. I'm off my rocker. 50 pixels. Padding right is 50 pixels. Padding left is 50 pixels. And that should, yeah, there we go. Now, when you do this, of course, now I need it for all four sides. Nope, semicolon. Right? But, and the padding on the bottom only works if you have enough room. So it has to kind of allow for enough space plus the pad. So, yes, I have this padding at the bottom, but I think there's a limit onto how far I can push it. So, as long until it gets up to this size, basically. All right, so if I specify one, I have to specify them all differently, which is a little bit harder to work with because maybe I want these to be different. So now that I've got it figured out, hopefully that ends up being the correct numbers, but I'll have to make sure to not change these for these other sections. All right, so to recap, in order to get two things to sit next to each other, we have to put each of them in their own container. This one I called index image, this one I called index text. And then in the CSS, I have to write those in here, and I have to specify what they do. One floats to the left, one floats to the right. That lets me put them side by side. And then everything else is in the details for width and height and things like that. Now that works out great for, oh, hang on, let me save. There we go. That didn't save at all. There it is. So that works out really well for just a page with some one image and some text. But some of us are going to have galleries, like full-on galleries. And so we've got some templates here in this templates folder, which will be attached to here. There's 3 different ones. And this is what they look like. 3x3 gallery. Oh, that's not, that looks like words. Open with Chrome. Looks like this. When there's pictures in it, though, it gets much bigger. So it's a 3x3 gallery. 3 across, 3 up and down. They're all 3 up and down. The 4x4 gallery, or 4x3 gallery, is 4 images across, right? In the link gallery, it's just set up a little bit differently. It's already got some images and stuff in there, or it's got space for images in there, I should say. So if when you get to the actual HTML, this is more for like if you have a thumbnail for a link or for a video, and then there's a description of what that is. So for those of you that have video pages or maybe you need lots of description, that's going to be the one that you use. All right, but you saw when I double clicked on them, they opened up and there was code in there. So I'm going to right click, open in Dreamweaver, and you can see that looks a little bit closer to what it will actually look like because it's kind of looking for my images. And in fact, if I put this in the right spot, oh, no, in here, it should, yep. If I place it in the right location, now that my gallery folder is in my images folder, it can find the images I originally had in there. You guys won't have these images, so you will never see them. But this is essentially what it looks like, and it's set up for them to all be the correct size. Okay, but I kind of had to do this manually. I had to decide that I wanted them all to be 200 pixels. You can get rid of the height if you want, except for if you have like a vertical image like this. This one, I needed to set the height to 150, and then if could figure out the width on its own, right? So you kind of have to figure out if you want them to be vertical and everything. And you can also, by the way, I'll show you how to center this in a little bit. But the code that you want, yes, it's got useless JPEG links in it. You're going to get rid of those. But the code that you want is in between two different comments. It says use this part here until the next comment. This is a comment. It's words that are behind some code that say don't use this code, so they can write in English. And then there's this other comment down here that says this sends the gallery template. Now, in order to make this look like HTML, I have to tell it a whole bunch of stuff at the top that says this is HTML, do this, right? So, but I can select all these different bits, right click, copy, and when I paste it into my gallery page, it's going into this thing called section. I'm getting rid of all this other stuff, paste, and I'm putting in the gallery. Don't panic, I know some things are broken. Now, in order to put your images in, because mine are already in here, but if you want to put your images in, you simply click here and you link to this image for the source, and it's going to change size, and you're going to have to in here maybe get rid of the one that says height and then type in the width, or get rid of the one that says width and type in the height, but you're going to have to decide for yourselves how big you want these to be, right? That's got to be on you to figure out what you want. All right, but I want to explain to you what this is. This is a table. A table is basically a really formal grid where you actually see the grid. And so you can see here there's a border with width 1, and I can set that to be pretty big, or I could set it to be that I don't see it at all, right? I can also set my cell padding to something much smaller, right? Make it a little bit tighter. So that's up to you. But that's how you can change the overall kind of look of this. TR means row, so each row is its own TR tag. And then each cell is this TD tag. So each individual cell, like this drawing right here, is in this row, in this TD tag. And then you can see it's href, the image. That's what you're linking to. This is set up so you can click on this and get a bigger version of the image. Then there's the image source, which is about the image itself. And then this A thing ends the link tag. So this is how, here we go, how we get it to look like that. But we have a couple problems here. Okay? This is clearly much bigger than this CSS gives room for. So here's what we're going to do. In the source code for the gallery, I've got this thing called section. It's the same word that everything else uses. Well, that doesn't do me much good because I need a different section definition. So I'm going to be real creative and call it section 2. But I got to do the end tag as well. I have to say the end is section 2 as well. Now you can see it looks like I have fixed the problem. It did not fix the problem. It broke in a good direction. So the other thing we need to do is go into the CSS, and I need to take this whole thing called section, everything from the tag, the name section, to the end squiggly bracket. That's very important. End squiggly brackets are important. I'm going to make a copy of it, and I'm going to call it section 2. I'm stealing all the information, calling it section 2. And so now it's got this information again. And now I can sit there and I can kind of fix it and I can say, well, this needs to be a lot bigger than 300. It's also not updating here. This is totally wrong. I need to actually look at it to see what it looks like. And I broke the ever-loving bejesus out of it, which is not surprising. So I guess this is what it looks like. It looks like there's something in here that I'll have to take a look at in a minute. But it's not big enough, and also the container is not tall enough. So if you're going to have this big border, I'll just change it for this page for now, but you would have to do that same trick of having two of them, and you'd have to, well, that's still too big. Maybe 900. 900? There we go. So I would have to make a new container thing as well to make the container big enough for the page. So if you're doing a whole border around your page, it's a little bit of a risk. Which, by the way, if I go back to my index now, see how it's like all the way down here? That's the risk, is that now you have to make it specific to your gallery page. Let's see here. So, cell padding 10. So as you're dealing with your gallery, one of the other things you can change is I can go into this tag right here for this data point, and I think it's text line equals, because we're not in CSS anymore. That's not it. That's technically how you would write it, but that's not where you would put it. I have to remember to put it, I believe here. There's a way to tell the image to be aligned in the center. And I'm going to look up where exactly to put that. But we can tell this vertical image to be centered better. Well, I know one reason it didn't work is I was working on the wrong image. I was working on this one instead of this one. This is what happens when you record these when you're tired. It's align equals center, but it's equals and then quotation mark center, not what we've been doing in CSS. There's two different syntaxes you're dealing with. Here it's name of thing, colon, specificity, and semicolon. Here it's name of property equals quotation marks, specificity, close quotation marks. And it has to be in this TD tag, like in the first tag. But when I put it there, this centered nicely. This is where I want it. There you have it. Still not sure what exactly is causing this, but we kind of don't have time for me to fix my broken stuff. Suffice it to say that everyone else in your class was able to put this table in here and everything worked out just fine. So I'm not concerned with this particular breaking point happening with you guys because it didn't happen in class. But basically I would have to take some time to dig through what exactly I changed and see if I'm like missing a tag somewhere, or make sure I put the, call these things the right things. Oh, I have this weird div ID in here. I don't need that. So I called it div ID table. That could be also interfering with things. But basically people were able to get this in pretty quickly. And make the changes they needed to make it look like they want to. You can also use this stuff for your contact page. I know a lot of people had multiple images in their contact page. Well, if I take all this stuff and I go to the contact page and I get rid of this here, I can make this table smaller by getting rid of 2 rows. I get rid of that row, Bob's your uncle. If I get rid of, instead of images right here, if I get rid of everything between the TD tags, I can say Twitter. And what that does is it just replaces this with text. There we go. I can label that Twitch, and then we'll label this. I'm not going to go finding there we go. And you can see when I do that for all 3 of them, now it's kind of shortened this, and we can pretend that these are the icons for Twitch and Twitter and Snapchat because I'm not going to look for them. But you would just simply place those icons in here, and you would have this. And especially, I know people really like, there's a lot of space in here. So you could do much more frame padding. If you say border is 0, the table is holding your images. And then the other thing you can do is text align. I believe this is how we write this. Nope. Center. And I was hoping I wouldn't have to put it in every single row, but I do, which is unfortunate, so I have to put it in here, I believe. Oh, no, it's not listening there either. Maybe it's just a line. Yep. Align center. We'll see if I can put it here. Yes. Very good. So you can put it in for the whole row if you want to, and it will center the text on the row. And then I can also say, I believe I can say align top. Line equals quotation marks top. And it won't listen to both. What I was hoping for was that it would bring it to the top of this box, but it doesn't want to listen. So we're going to get rid of the align top one because I want them to at least be centered. And then we can, if I want to, I can play with the cell padding number a little bit, maybe not make it quite so big so that these things can be a little bit closer. Or you can bring in images that have a border around them naturally. There's a lot of different, ooh, actually, I lied. We're going to take cell padding 20 and we're going to bring it down to this row. And it's not going to listen because it needs to know, it needs to do the same thing for all of them, which is unfortunate, but these are the things we try. And there it is. But at least you can play with these tables and use them to your advantage to set up something that doesn't necessarily look like a table, but it can at least have your icons and your various social media platforms all set up in here. All right, but and then the last thing you need to do for all of your pages is go up to the top where it says title of the page goes here. And call this contact. And you can type in whatever you want here, whatever you want to call your page. What this is, if we test this, is this thing right here. So that if you have other things, other tabs up, you can see what it is you have up there. And now I'm looking at it going, well, I should really have my full name up there because that way I'll know what's going on. Nope. It should update. There we go. It should live preview. Okay, so it means now if I'm somewhere else, I know, oh, that's the contact information for this person. That's what I'm in. So you can title your pages whatever you want, but title them something. All right, and that should be it. And so it's just using the same things over and over again to get the look you want. Your bio page is just formatting the text however you want, adding an image if you would like an image. It's all up to you how these pages look. What we don't want is the default. You want to play around with things. You want to make things look nice. You don't want text right along the edge. And certainly you need to use your own images and not mine of the cats who just came to visit and he's getting in the way. So if you have any questions about this, I know this is a more intense subject matter, so send me an email, shipwreckstuff@gmail.com, or and if you do that, send the HTML file because it's really small and it's easy for me to read. Same with the CSS. Just attach those two files and say this is, it's not quite doing what I want it to, and it could easily just be a syntax error, which means a period or slash is in the wrong place. All right, so if you have any questions, send the files with the email so we can get that looked at.